Burmecia, Burmecia, they say, pronounce it Burmecia, a real beautiful company.
This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
I had the best words, tolerated. I know words.
Mike Pounds.
I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. I had the best words.
God bless the United States.
Burmecia, Burmecia, they say, pronounce it Burmecia, a real...
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Round the Nation, Waldorf Nation, Jeff Waldorf here with you. Boy, do we have an interesting show today. Got a lot of stuff we want to talk about, including, of course, the results of poverty as a result, I guess, of the coronavirus and congressional inaction. We're going to talk about that. We've got Donald Trump struggling to talk again. That's always fun. Lindsey Graham's begging for money. As usual, we've also got Coney Barrett on climate change. And a great segment today where you have somebody on cable news challenging John Bolton on Iraq. We've went back in time, but you know what? I'll take it because it's an amazing segment where you know that person's probably going to get fired. Awesome. All right. Anyway, so we've got that. Let's see. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. We're streaming everywhere. We're streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And so we're doing that. We just passed 10,000 Facebook followers. So that's pretty awesome. That's what we've been trying to work on getting, growing the channel, increasing our reach to all the different platforms. So that is amazing. Thank you to those who made that happen. That said, let's do it. Let's get into the stories. Terrible news for the economy. The poverty rate has exploded as a result of the coronavirus and, of course, its related economic impacts, making poverty actually even worse now than it was before the pandemic started. So now this is according to two different new studies. The number of poor people, according to researchers at Columbia, has actually grown by 8 million since May. So this is pretty disastrous news, and it's important to note that this had happened after falling by 4 million at the start of the pandemic as a result of the CARES Act. So the CARES Act was passed. It actually reduced poverty by 4 million people, and then once it wore off, once the money was spent, was no longer affecting the economy after July 31st, then poverty grew by 8 million. So in total, at its peak in May, this is an astounding number. The aid actually kept more than 18 million people from falling into poverty, according to the Columbia researchers. But by September, again, this is after the aid had run out on July 31st, the number had fallen to about 4 million. Zachary Perolin, an author of the Columbian analysis, said this: the CARES Act was unusually successful, but now it's gone and a lot more people are poor. So just imagine, I've talked about the CARES Act being filled with corporate giveaways, and it was. But it also had some good stuff in it, namely stuff that Bernie Sanders and progressives had fought for. Things like the extra $600 benefits. Hell, even the $1,200 checks, as measly as they were at least somewhat effective for a short time in keeping people from falling into poverty. Without any of that stuff, and I know there should have been a UBI, there should have been rent cancellation. You guys know what I personally want to see in a relief bill. And, you know, the kind of relief bill that I would like to see would lift millions more out of poverty and keep them there. That said, you can't deny that the CARES Act actually did quite a bit of good. And without it, there's now quite a bit of bad that is happening. There are millions more people now in poverty. And so it is a disaster, of course, that it is no longer in effect, and that for some reason Congress can't get up off their ass to actually do something to alleviate poverty. So now it makes sense, of course, that without that federal money, with the coronavirus still having a gigantic impact in the markets, and all that, poverty goes back up, and then actually gets worse than before the virus. Now, the other study used a different definition of poverty, and this was from researchers at the University of Chicago and Notre Dame, found that poverty had grown by 6 million people in the past 3 months, with circumstances worsening most for black people and children. Well, of course, that is true groups that Republicans don't give a damn about. Now, they care about the markets. That's why they passed the CARES Act, because the markets were in free fall. The markets have now stabilized, but now, even after the coronavirus aid is gone, the markets are still fairly stable. You have black people and children that are suffering the most, and that's why Republicans are like, no, fine, we're not going to pass anything. Do you think a bill is going to get past Mitch McConnell? No, working as intended. Of course we're not going to help them. They're black people, and they're children. We only care about children when they're inside the womb, and that's only as a means to control women. Other than that, we don't give a damn. You think we care? No. We need to go pray to our beloved markets. That's the only thing we give a damn about, because, of course, that leads to us getting campaign contributions from our donors, our corporate owners. And so, now, Bruce D. Meyer, an economist in the University of Chicago and an author of the study, said that these numbers are very concerning. Quote, they tell us people are having a lot more trouble paying their bills, paying their rent, putting food on the table. Yeah, it's weird. It's almost as if you don't have money, you can't do those things. Who would have thought? It took 2 studies to figure this out. That if you don't give people money during a pandemic where it's dangerous to work and a lot of businesses have closed down as a result, that they won't be able to make their bills. Weird. Holy crap. I know, revelations, right? And look, more importantly, when you look at macroeconomics, yes, we have an economy that's based mostly on consumer spending. When you have a pandemic, that really eats into that because people no longer want or can go out to eat and go to movies. All those different services that are inaccessible as a result of the pandemic, when those aren't, can't function, people lose their jobs, and it creates a very negative feedback loop. And, what would be interesting if we actually continue to have a UBI, some sort of stimulus, to help those people survive. Instead, the federal government saying, get back to work, losers, moochers, get back to what work. There's not a whole lot. Even though the job market, they say, is improving, it's not improving fast enough. And so that's the problem. And again, it's not just like, oh my, it looks like I can't go and buy a Starbucks today. No, it's people can't afford their heat, they can't afford food, they're rationing their medication if they have to take like insulin, which can lead to, of course, people dying. They can't afford their electricity, they can't afford heat, can't afford hot meals. They're skipping meals. I mean, this is third world level type of suffering that's happening here. And by the way, this is what conservatives always warn will happen under, socialism, right? Oh, look at Venezuela. Well, that's happening here in this country right now. Ironically, socialism in the form of the CARES Act and the UBI, not UBI, but the $1,200 checks and the unemployment benefits, socialism actually kept people out of poverty. Weird how that seems to work. Weird. It's almost as if, I don't know, anybody with a functional brain could have predicted that this would happen. And as I said before, the job market is getting better, but it's not getting better fast enough, and we still have coronavirus that's running rampant across the country. The American people desperately need relief, and again, as I said, they need a UBI, they need rent and mortgage cancellations until the pandemic is over, a retroactive $2,000 or at least $2,000 a month payment for every single person, every single adult, $500 or so for children, free health care, medical care, all that stuff. That's what we need to get out of this pandemic, and neither party is putting forward anything like that. And by the way, speaking of both parties and what they're doing, there was a recent dust-up between, Ro Khanna and Nancy Pelosi, and it's actually a lot more of a nuanced conversation. I know a lot of lefties are like, fuck Nancy Pelosi, she's horrible, and I'm going to disagree with her no matter what she says or what she does so I can be contrarian, right? Because I just don't like Nancy Pelosi. I get it. Ro Khanna criticized her. He actually made some pretty good points. Nancy Pelosi also made some good points, but overall, neither side is going to win because guess what? The elephant in the room is Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is not going to pass a $2.8 trillion stimulus, which Nancy Pelosi rejected, and Ro Khanna said that we should accept. Because even if, and that's what Donald Trump was willing to put on the table from what he said. Again, you can't really believe anything that Donald Trump says. But if he, a lot of the conventional wisdom, or at least a lot of the progressives were saying, hey, Ro Khanna's right, we should take the deal. Nancy Pelosi, take the deal. Well, if it's a legitimate deal, well, then absolutely. I would take it. Yeah. Who cares if Donald Trump's going to benefit politically by putting his name on a check right before the election? I don't care if it helps somebody be able to afford food. Then send the damn checks. Send the checks. The problem is that it's a moot conversation. And it's a moot conversation because of Mitch fucking McConnell. Mitch McConnell ain't going to let a $2.8 trillion bill get through the Senate. He's not going to let anything get through the Senate. And so, no, it doesn't matter if, Nancy Pelosi is wrong or Nancy Pelosi is right or Ro Khanna's wrong or Ro Khanna's right. It doesn't matter at this point. Both of them actually do make good points, but you're not getting anything done unless you remove Mitch McConnell. And that is the fucking problem. Mitch McConnell and Senate Republicans are the problem. And if you're looking at it from a perspective that is not colored by your own internal hatreds of certain politicians, and I completely understand why you would do so, I do believe Nancy Pelosi is garbage. But Mitch McConnell is not going to take that deal. He's not going to take any deal. If anything, I'd be okay with some piecemeal legislation, a $1,200 check, stuff like that. But again, I don't think anything's really going to get through McConnell because at the end of the day, he doesn't care about regular people at all. That's why he needs to get removed. Again, the American people need something, and I would accept a deal, but it's not going to happen, regardless of whether or not Nancy Pelosi would actually agree with Donald Trump on this particular deal. So it's just not going to happen. We got to get these assholes out of office. Unless we do, the American people are going to continue to suffer, and that is the problem. All right. Moving on. A lot of people disagreeing with my take on Nancy Pelosi. As always, I've noticed that you can't say or defend anything that certain people say without the circular firing squad. It sucks. What are you going to do? There's no room for nuance here. Shoot. Why is that? Okay, hold on. All right, just a second here. I'm gonna fix something. All right, we're back. We're back on YouTube. Sorry about that. I had to fix something here. Okay. Now, one thing, I just wanted to read this comment. McGrath is in a double-digit hole. Yeah, Amy McGrath is a disaster. We know that. I know that she's not going to win. So Mitch McConnell is going to continue. The only thing that we can really hope for is if Democrats can, progressive Democrats can get a bigger majority in the Senate, or can actually hit the majority in the Senate, and hopefully do something on COVID relief. I know it's not going to be as much as we hope, but guys, remember, we're in the minority right now, and progressives are in the woods. We simply don't have the power yet, and we need to continue to working to get that power. All right. Let's go to Lindsey Graham. Now, if you were having kind of a bad day, well, let me show you a video of Lindsey Graham begging for cash. That's going to make you smile. Take a look.
They hate my guts because I stood up for Kavanaugh when they tried to destroy that man's life, and the unpardonable sin in politics is to help Donald Trump. My opponent has raised $57 million, the most in the Senate, in the history of the United States Senate, because they want to take me out.
They want to take me out. Why so sad, Lindsey? Do you need money for your campaign? Are you not doing well today? Awesome. Look, all right, so some serious points, obviously. Lindsey Graham is not doing well on raising money for his race. Jamie Harrison, who I'm not like a giant fan, he's not like a big progressive or anything like that, but he's crushing in fundraising. So does that mean automatic victory? Not necessarily, but it does certainly help to have more money than your opponent, especially somebody as unpopular as Lindsey Graham. And so if he takes out Lindsey Graham, that would be fantastic, because Lindsey Graham is complete Donald Trump bootlicking trash. And so, look, I know some people were surprised that Lindsey Graham went back on his pledge to not push through Coney Barrett. And that's why, of course, why people are pretty mad at him. But here's the thing. I was not surprised, because hypocrisy is a Republican trait. We obviously knew that was going to happen. Come on. Of course he's going to kiss ass. They all do this. Unless, of course, you're the Lincoln Project, which has figured out a great way to grift liberals. Because they're smart enough to see that Trumpism is a dead end. And let's be fair about that. So now the race between Graham and Harrison has gotten a lot of national exposure. You got both sides that are raising lots of money. Harrison is actually raising a lot more money, as a lot of Democrats are. Because it turns out Republicans are really facing the result of being Trumpist and basically hanging on to Donald Trump, which is bringing them down. just as we kind of figured was going to happen. Now, of course, is this going to be enough to defeat Lindsey Graham? I don't know. I don't know if he's going to lose his seat. Obviously, we're going to have to wait till the election. I hope not Kentucky, sorry, I'm hoping South Carolina. I was thinking of Mitch McConnell there for a second. I was hoping South Carolina would make the right choice. I don't know. We could see, but if Lindsey Graham is removed and replaced by, at least it might be a corporate Democrat, but replaced, we might actually be able to get through something through the Senate, and that's much, much needed at this point. And so that right there is kind of a perfect reason to try to at least cheer to get rid of Lindsey Graham. And so I hope the voters agree. Just a little fun thing, looking at, of course, Lindsey Graham crying and begging for cash. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. All right, let's move on. Let's have some more fun before we get to more serious stuff. Oh, sidebars. Nope, that's wrong one actually. Hold. There we go. The best words. The best words. President Donald Trump always seems to have the best words. We know this. We've heard plenty of these words before. And so that was on display during Donald Trump's latest rally after returning home from coronavirus. So he seems to be getting a little bit better. He certainly sounds better in some interviews, except, of course, when you get him to try to pronounce things like this.
Burmisia, they say, pronounce it Burmisia. A real beautiful company. Vice President Joe Biden went to Ukraine.
Burmisia, realm of eternal reign, home of Freya the Dragoon. Oh, wait, what are we talking about? Oh, Burisma. Right, okay. Yes, I know words, the best words, the greatest words ever. Tremendous words. Again, he's trying to say Burisma because of a report in the New York Post about, of course, Hunter Biden. More garbage about Hunter Biden. That's great. Awesome. Look, that has already basically been debunked as fake news. So if you're like excited about, oh my God, look at the Hunter Biden stuff. It's just ridiculous. It's more red meat. It's more bullshit. Biden did not push out any prosecutors in order to help his son. Literally, the Republicans even looked into this, and they found that there was no crime, no criminal activity on the part of the Biden family. Was it, of course, shady? Is it institutional corruption? Yes, of course it is. It's cashing in your father's name. But then again, this is the Trumps we're also talking about here, who do the same thing. In fact, every political family does. I mean, look at how much money the Clintons raised from being in office. And then you also look at what Donald Trump's been doing in office. They all do it. They all do. I'm not saying that it's right, but honestly, it's pot calling the kettle black. And that's a bit of a problem, right? He should have never been in that position. But at this point in the election, when you've got millions of people, 8 million more people in poverty now in this country, when you have millions of people that can't afford their medicine, that have lost their insurance, they're on the edge of losing pretty much everything as a result of Donald Trump's inaction on the coronavirus, do you really give a shit about Hunter Biden? Do you really care? Is it really a big thing? No, this is Hillary's emails 2.0. And as a political person, I found the emails very fascinating. But as a working person, do you really give a shit? Or do you care about, hey, I need to be able to pay my rent this month? And so that's a bit of the problem. And so here you have Donald Trump throwing out this red meat, the New York Post throwing out this crap in order to distract people, in order to whip people up that are actually doing fairly well. You don't see people who are poor, who are struggling, who are desperate, saying, "Ooh, did you hear what Hunter Biden did? Oh man, that's going to make me vote for Donald Trump because he's done such a great job with my day-to-day living." No. There's no impact on policy. There's no impact on anything. Okay. And by the way, I talked about Hillary's emails. Guess what? Mike Pompeo recently promised to bring back the Hillary emails. I'm not kidding. They're running the 2016 playbook again. And of course, this is while coronavirus is running rampant. You've got the economy that's a disaster. You've got millions of people in poverty. They're doing it over again, and they're expecting the result from 2016, and it's just not going to work in the Republicans' favor at this time. Look, you've got Biden that's crushing Donald Trump all over the country. You've got polls where even Georgia is in play. Georgia. When was the last time Georgia was in play when it comes to the election? It's insanity. Okay? Iowa, Pennsylvania, Florida. It's a disaster for Trump. You even have Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch, super owner, Fox News, these conservative outlets, big conservative. He's forecasting a Biden landslide. That guy. Come on. He's losing Fox News, for sure. He's even losing Varney. And so he needs something. And again, this goes back to what they're trying to do. They're trying to replay the 2016 playbook. Now, here's the thing. 2016 was a fluke. It was lightning in a bottle. It was the establishment, represented by Hillary Clinton, one of the most disliked, terrible politicians that we have seen. The weakest Democratic candidate in my lifetime that I can remember. And I know Biden's got some major problems. I've talked about that. He absolutely does. But despite that, he's more well-liked than Hillary Clinton. More importantly, though, you had Donald Trump that was in power. We got a taste of what anti-establishment Donald Trump, and it turns out he's just more establishment. Just worse, somehow. But he's had his chance. He's failed absolutely miserably, and the American people are pretty much ready to move on from that. Even people who voted for Donald Trump the first time are saying, wow, yeah, we were duped. We're not doing that one again. And so that's what you're seeing here. They're embarrassed of their vote, and they should be. And look, the guy wants to call Biden mentally damaged, but again...
Burmecia, they say, pronounce it Burmecia, a real beautiful company.
Thailand.
Yosemite.
I mean, come on. There's plenty more. I mean, I'm not saying that's evidence of, mental damage or anything like that, but he sure as hell cannot talk. And so I've had my own troubles with words, obviously. But Donald Trump seems to have this problem all the time. We don't know what it is, whether it's COVID brain or his denture slipping or whatever, but Donald Trump seems to have problems with words, big problems with words. The oranges of the investigation. Exactly. And so, I don't know, but he's having a hard time. And so, a lot of people, I guess, are kind of concerned about his mental health. It's not good when you're considering that he's the president of the United States. Or the United States, as he would say. All right. Let's move on here. One more, then we're going to go to a break. A lot of you have a lot of great examples of Donald Trump that I do not have in the soundboard. See, I'm doing it now. It's contagious. It is contagious. All right, moving on. 64-year-old Wisconsin bar owner Mark Schultz is not happy with President Donald Trump. And it might have something to do with the fact that he is in the ICU with coronavirus. So what does that have to do with President Donald Trump? Well, back in March, Schultz Bar had hosted the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., and now, of course, is pretty upset with the way that they handled coronavirus, especially since one of them got coronavirus. Here's what he said, quote, "I don't worry much about me, but I got a 10-year-old son and my fiance. That's all I care about," he told the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel via phone, between fits of coughing and struggles with shortened breath. Just to show you how good of a condition that he's in, he said, "My family is all at home. They're all worried about me. I don't want them to worry about me. I don't want them to go through this. I hope I get to go home." Look, as an empathetic person, reading that kind of, obviously it has an impact. All right. I mean, all the guy wants to do is to go home and be with his family and to make sure that they don't go through losing him. Okay. I feel that. I do. And it just makes me think of how the 220 plus thousand people who have died from coronavirus also felt during that time. The fact that they didn't get to see their family, and yet they ended up having, passing away, dying from coronavirus. I mean, and the complications, all alone without their family. I mean, that's horrifying. And they all had people to go back to. And then you look, of course, you think about that, and then you look at how Donald Trump has literally treated this crisis. This entire thing. Talking about this. Going out and saying, "Oh, look, I'm immune. I'm going to give everybody big, fat, sloppy kisses." And it affected virtually no one. And Rudy Giuliani going out there and saying, "Well, almost nobody's died from this. Nobody dies from coronavirus. It's fine. It's fine. They're going to go back in the economy." And then, of course, there's this thing on the right where they talk about, "Oh, it's only the weak that are dying from coronavirus. You're a big, strong man like Donald Trump. You're an alpha. You're a Chad. Then you're not going to be affected at all. You're going to get through coronavirus and it'll be fine. Stop being afraid. Don't let it run your life." I mean, it's just, it's disgusting. And that's why, Schultz, for example, Schultz is pissed. And here's what he said about that. Of Donald Trump, not Trump Jr., but Trump. Quote, "I just want to punch him." He added, "I always had to keep my politics to myself. But from where I'm sitting now, those days are over. I shouldn't be here." Well, I mean, this is what happens, right? I'm not saying it's his fault, for one. Okay, so don't misunderstand me on that. But he opened up his place for, Donald Trump, Trump Jr., to come in and whatever. He's like, "Hey, look, I'm not playing politics. I'm not trying to be partisan or anything like that. We're open up to anybody." All right, I get that. I understand the impulse to try to be fair and to not try to take sides. But at this point in the game, even back in March, there were clear sides delineated. And it was clear what either side stood for. He didn't get it at that point. But, understand, this is, this is what regular people see. Because they're not involved in this, understand, right? There's an ignorance about where people stand in the political spectrum. There's still a lot of people that believe that Republicans are not only looking out for their good, right, for the people's good, but are good faith actors. And you even see that from the Democratic side. Nancy Pelosi, for example, says, "Oh, I can't wait till the Republicans, take back their party and become what they should be." No, they're a death cult, and they've always been this way for a very long time. Donald Trump is the ultimate result of conservatism. This is who they are when taken to their logical extreme. So understand that. Now, the article did add that Schultz Bar used to be a place free of politics, but not anymore. That's what he says. But understand that it's never been free of politics, because nothing is. Politics affects everything that we do, everything that we go through, everything in our lives. To give a few examples of the bar, liquor licensing, that's political. Punishments for being intoxicated in public, that's obviously political. Hell, even shipping, right? What you can and cannot ship, and what can and cannot be shipped. That stuff also political. There's a lot of things in life, great many things that are political. You can't just get away from it. We are never free of politics. And some people mistakenly think that it's only the circus that we see every 4 years. No. Politics is not a spectator sport. It happens all the time, and it's all around us, the decisions that are made. And I think that's where people are mistaken, and we need to get more involved if we want to change those politics. So, that said, I wish more people would understand that. But that's just a tangent. So let's get back to Schultz, right? Now, Schultz believes that Trump should have been more upfront with the public from the beginning about the danger of the virus that's now killed nearly 220,000 people. And, of course, the numbers are continuing to spike, to climb. This winter is going to be especially bad. Schultz recalled feeling sick on the same day that Donald Trump checked into Walter Reed Medical Center, and he said the president's nonchalant attitude was wearing thin on him. Quote, "I'm just frustrated with the president, the nonchalantness of the virus. They should be afraid. It's nothing to mess with. I just can't sleep. If you can't breathe, you can't sleep." Yeah. By the way, the president, when he checked into Walter Reed, he got airlifted and then immediately got the best drugs, experimental drugs, stuff that's not even available to regular people. He got all that stuff as soon as he checked in. Why? Well, he's president of the United States, of course. And so he gets the best medical care our money can buy. And yet, we're lucky to be able to get a hospital bed in some places. I mean, yes, there are some places maybe with 20 to 50 hospital beds that haven't been utilized yet. But experts all over the country are warning coronavirus cases are getting worse. We're going to run out of beds real quickly because we didn't do what we needed to do back in the summertime in order to slow the spread of the virus. And so there's a possibility that a great many people won't even get a bed, and they'll end up dying in the hallways of hospitals. You think it won't happen? It already has. It already has in places like New York, for example. And it could definitely happen again. And that's the reality of what's coming. And yet at the same time, the president, because of what we paid for, gets to breathe easy. Because he got the treatment and he got the preferential treatment that none of us could ever get. If only we lived in the world that where we got the same kind of treatment the president did. Wouldn't that be nice? All right. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to come back. We've got more stuff here to talk about. We've got Amy Coney Barrett. Surprisingly good questions by Kamala Harris. I know this is another indication of, or another situation, I should say, where my audience is going to jump on me for actually saying something nice about Kamala Harris. Awesome. And then a great segment on cable news. This is a weird day. So, anyway, stay right here. We'll come back. Round the Nation.
Burmisia, they say, pronounce it Burmisia, a real beautiful company.
Yosemite's.
Thailand.
Welcome back to the show, Around the Nation, right here, Waldorf Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Okay, so a couple of super chats that I want to read before we get back into it. Farron Cousins' cat likes to assist. Oh, that's cute. Trump did a town hall earlier at the Trump Internet YouTube channel. Of course he did. Tango Pango with the Eldon's number contribution. Oh, boy. Tontokoro says, honestly, I agree. McConnell is the biggest roadblock, who unfortunately will win his re-election campaign. McGrath is a feckless coward. She's a pro-Trump Democrat. She's establishment, ex-military. I mean, we know. Like, as soon as she lost, I'm sorry, as soon as Charles Booker lost that primary, the race was over. Like, don't give money to McGrath. She's not going to win. You're flushing it down the toilet, lighting it on fire at this point. You might as well give it to more races that are actually more evenly matched. You know, let the establishment donors give money to McGrath so she can light it on fire. Doing those ridiculous Mitch McConnell cartoons. All right, anyway. So, let's see. Finally, LL says, my BIL has been in the ICU for 3 weeks. He has short-term memory loss and thinks his family has abandoned him because they haven't been able to visit. Yeah, that's horrible. I really, really hope for his recovery. Man, I'm really sorry that's happening to your family. And it's happening to so many people around the country. And it's not just affecting the 220,000 plus that are killed, that have died because of the virus, but it's, affecting a lot of people, the families, friends. You might not even die, but you still get put in this position where there's organ damage for long term, and there's also the medical bills that follow people around that unfortunately neither party has really a solution for. I mean, Medicare for all would have to be one of those things because there's already enough to worry about with coronavirus than having to pay thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in hospital bills for this virus. So, anyway, let's see. Let's go over to Twitch here. Void Queen says he had a rally at the airport. Chairs were pushed together as close as they could get, of course. Hardly any masks in sight, mostly middle-aged and older people. The government has declared all mask mandates in the states unenforceable. The governor. Yeah. Oh. Of course. Super spreader event, super spreader president. That's what we've got going on. All right. Let's get to the next story here. Thank you for the super chats, by the way. Much, much appreciated. Okay. I think that's the right one. Nope, that is not the right one. Hold. There we go. Good old question dodging here. Amy Coney Barrett is likely to become the next Supreme Court justice, unfortunately. And so she was asked some important questions by Kamala Harris, who actually is pretty good at asking questions. One of them happens to be about climate change. Here's how that entire interaction happened.
Do you accept that COVID-19 is infectious?
I think, yes, I do accept that COVID-19 is infectious. That's something of which I feel like, we could say you take judicial notice of. It's an obvious fact, yes.
Do you accept that smoking causes cancer?
I'm not sure exactly where you're going with this, but, the notice that smoking causes...
The question is what it is. You can answer it if you believe yes or no.
Senator Harris, yes, every package of cigarettes warns that smoking causes cancer.
And do you believe that climate change is happening and it's threatening the air we breathe and the water we drink?
Senator, Again, I was wondering where you were going with that. You have asked me a series of questions like that are completely uncontroversial, like whether COVID-19 is infectious, whether smoking causes cancer, and then trying to analogize that to eliciting an opinion on me that is a very contentious matter, opinion from me that is on a very contentious matter of public debate. And I will not do that. I will not express a view on a matter of public policy, especially one that is politically controversial, because that's inconsistent with the judicial role, as I have explained.
Thank you, Judge Barrett. And you've made your point clear that you believe it's a debate.
All right, so look, Kamala Harris is a cop. But that helps her because she asks some pretty good questions there in order to try to get her to basically say, you know, that she believes that climate change is quote unquote debatable. Now, that's to prove the point that it is not. Because over 99% of scientists agree that climate change is happening and that human beings have contributed, at least in some part, to it. And so that is not debatable. The science is fairly clear. The consensus is clear on the issue of climate change. Again, what varies is degree. Now, it's not a controversial thing, and this is my point. It's not a controversial thing unless you're either ignorant of the science, which can be fixed with knowledge, or if you're pushing a certain political agenda. And from her answer, we know that it's, well, we know where she's coming from. All right. So now by calling it politically controversial, she's basically adopting the language crafted by lobbyists and by the industry in order to, of course, muddy the waters so that we can't actually do anything about climate change, which would affect these companies' bottom line, their profit margins. And so that's the situation here. And I do appreciate when Kamala Harris is able to cut through that bullshit in order to kind of expose them for who they are. And look, we've known climate change is a thing for a long time. Scientists back in 1827 were saying, hey, turns out if we put a bunch of carbon into the atmosphere, things might get a little warmer. It will prevent heat from going back and out into space, which warms up the planet. And so that's what we're doing here. And of course, unfortunately, profit motives got in the way. Back in the 1970s, researchers at Royal Dutch Shell, ExxonMobil, and other oil companies, they confirmed that climate change is happening, and they warned executives about it. The executives buried it. We know that. They hired people from the cigarette industry, which is why she asked that question, hey, do cigarettes cause cancer? Well, they literally had people out there saying, no, it cause cancer. No, the science is not settled on that. They're using the exact same playbook, only instead of course, dealing with millions of people that have gotten cancer as a result of smoking cigarettes, we're dealing with the possible end of human civilization within the next 100 years as a result of instability in the climate. Increased floods, fires, storms, things like that. And so those are pretty big issues. You know, mass migrations. All of these negative effects that are coming down the pike and that are actually also happening now. Again, you look at California with its increased wildfires, wildfire season lasting a lot longer than it used to, affecting all these different places. And it's not a result, by the way, of poor forest management, because, we still had the same level of forest management before, and then things started getting worse, and it's not because forest management got worse, right? It's not because we were raking the forest less. It's because there's a significant change in the climate, making dry season that much drier and lasting that much longer. And so that's the problem with climate change, okay? That's the problem here. And what she is doing is she is basically saying, well, the science is not settled. No, it's definitely settled. You are lying. She is an ideologue, and she is a grifter. And that's who Amy Coney Barrett is. And I've got more information to back that up, by the way. Less than 2 weeks before our confirmation hearings began, the Supreme Court agreed to hear an appeal by oil giants over lawsuits by cities seeking to hold the companies liable for climate damages. The firms, including BP and Royal Dutch Shell, want to move the suits from state to federal courts, where the industry expects more favorable rulings. And now tell me, why would they expect more favorable rulings from the Supreme Court? Oh, right, because they're pushing Amy Coney Barrett. I mean, look, we've already got a conservative Supreme Court. Getting her confirmed would mean a supermajority, 6-3, and we know the direction that she's going to go in. In fact, she has familial ties with the oil industry. Barrett's father, a Catholic deacon and former attorney, Mike Coney, said in his church's website that most of his legal career was spent as an attorney for Shell. In fact, Barrett included the Anglo-Dutch oil behemoth 7 times in her recusal list that guides her work as a judge in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit, which she submitted to the Senate for her questionnaire. The list works as part of the court's automatic recusal system to help identify potential conflicts of interest. She's got that conflict of interest. Will she recuse herself? Would she have to? Not necessarily. I mean, she probably wouldn't. In fact, she said this, it's always up to the individual justice, but it always involves consultation with the colleagues, with 8 other justices, so that's not a question that I can answer in the abstract, meaning that basically she is dodging the question and will likely probably not recuse herself on issues involving oil companies and or climate change. They know. And by the way, the oil companies know that she's going to rule favorably. In fact, that's why the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is pushing her. In fact, they endorsed her nomination last month and began lobbying lawmakers to confirm her to the bench. They know exactly what Amy Coney Barrett is about. They know she's bought because they paid for her. That's what she paid. That's what they paid for. And so we know exactly where she's going to go, how she's going to rule on these things. We know that she's probably not going to recuse herself. And so I think the only way to save human civilization is to pack the courts in order to nullify the conservative effect. Because again, at this point, if you don't pack the courts full of justices that will uphold climate regulation, well, I mean, again, we don't have a future if we don't. Pack the courts. All right. Let's do one more. Let's go back a little blast of the past. Let's talk about Iraq. As soon as I get the right sidebar. Journalist Mehdi Hassan has a new show over at NBC, and he appears to already is trying to get himself fired. Let me try that again, actually. Journalist Mehdi Hassan has a new show over at NBC, and it appears he's trying to get himself fired. Take a look.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you don't have any regrets. You never have apologized for the Iraq war, unlike a lot of other former supporters of it like Joe Biden. So what I'm wondering is, all those thousands of people who died in Iraq, all of those innocent Iraqi civilians, men, women, children, killed by US airstrikes, some of them in massacres at Haditha, Mahmoudiya, Balad, none of those weigh on your conscience? None of those deaths ever keep you up at night?
You don't know what you're talking about. The Iraq war, which was the period that lasted about 4 weeks, and resulted in the overthrow of Saddam Hussein, was a brilliant military victory by the United States and other coalition forces. And that, the removal of Saddam Hussein from power, was the right idea at the time, and it's true today. So people talk about the Iraq war as though it started in 2003 and lasted until 2011 when Obama withdrew everybody, as if every single decision in that 8-year period followed inevitably, unalterably, from the single decision to invade in 2003. And that's simply not right.
All right, so that first question, that was awesome. Now, John Bolton's question, of course, and he's going to continue to say that, oh, what are you talking about? All this stuff that led to the invasion of Iraq couldn't have possibly been our fault. Yeah, it was. You invaded Iraq, which then led to the occupation, which then led to all of this other stuff that's happening. That's a ridiculous notion. John Bolton still not defending, or still defending his decision to support the Iraq War. I mean, that's amazing. Well, what are you talking about? It was a brilliant military strategy, which led to innumerable deaths of Iraqi citizens and war crimes and CIA torture black sites. And it is amazing, too, by the way, going back to Mehdi Hassan here, who he's like, Joe Biden supported it, and then he had to go back on it. Why didn't you? I mean, the balls that it takes to do that. I love it. And so, obviously, John Bolton, not prepared for that one. But here's the thing that frustrates me about John Bolton on media appearances, right? Aside from this, Bolton always seems to get treated with kids' gloves because he's somebody who's gone up against Donald Trump. And so, I mean, MSNBC, for example, always given John Bolton some pretty prime speaking engagements, getting a free pass because, again, he is anti-Trump. Well, not anymore. Look, I doubt he's going to go on Hassan's show over again, which is fine by me, because at the end of the day, he's a war criminal. But I've got more here because there's plenty more where Hassan, where Mehdi Hassan challenges him, and I love it. Take a look.
You say it's simply not right, but the reality is hundreds of thousands of Iraqis died. There was torture, millions of refugees, and that did follow from the decision by George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, and others in the administration like yourself to invade Iraq. Hundreds of thousands of people died, and just to go back to my question, which you didn't answer, do those deaths never weigh on your conscience, was my question, which you didn't answer.
No, I did answer it, and I'll answer it again since you didn't seem to listen to it. The fact was, after the overthrow of Saddam Hussein, a number of decisions could have been made in different ways. But to lay all of the blame for what happened in Iraq on the single decision to overthrow Saddam Hussein is historically completely wrong.
But no one's doing that. They're pointing to the war and the invasion and the occupation. You're trying to disconnect the occupation. With respect, John Bolton, you weren't a pundit on Fox News then. You were in government. I don't remember you quitting in objection to the occupation. And the fact is that occupation, let me just finish my question and you come back in. That occupation produced thousands of dead, torture, refugees. I just wonder, do you ever worry that, you know, people have tried to do citizens arrests on you in the past. Do you ever worry you may have to face a court to answer for that war and that occupation, for the war crimes that happened back then?
Of course not, because what you're saying is completely ludicrous. And those who made those kinds of criticisms are not reflecting what actually happened. I'm not trying to duck the issue, but you're making a grievous factual error when you attribute everything that came after the overthrow of Saddam to the U.S. decision to do that.
Let me just ask you that question one more time. You keep saying I'm not listening to you, but I've asked twice. I'll ask one third time, because I want to talk about Iran and the nuclear deal. I know you have strong views there. Very quickly on Iraq, you have no regrets about the thousands of Iraqis who died in Iraq after the invasion. They never bother you, never keep you up at night, never weigh on your conscience.
I didn't say that at all. And what I'm saying is that the actual casualties in the overthrow of Saddam Hussein...
I understand that, but you're still not answering the question. It's a very simple question, yes or no. Do they weigh on your conscience?
Because it's not, because you cannot attribute it causally to the U.S. invasion simply because it happened later.
That ending, though. So they don't. Yeah, it's pretty obvious the way that he was dodging that question. They don't affect him at all. John Bolton doesn't give a goddamn about all the innocent Iraqis he killed. And later on, of course, in that interview, it's about 16 minutes long, Bolton then goes on to say, it's all Iran's fault. Oh, yeah, okay. It's all Iran's fault. They were training Sharia militia. What are you going to do? It's all Iran's fault. Maybe we should invade Iran. That's who John Bolton is. He's never met a war he didn't like, and he will never, ever apologize for the actual war crimes. Now, why do I say then Mehdi Hassan's getting fired? Well, that's a little bit of a joke. And it goes back to how, cable news media has traditionally treated anti-war voices. Phil Donahue, great example, got fired for criticizing the Iraq War. You had numerous people on numerous cable news networks getting fired or getting reprimanded for bringing up these war crimes. And so this is important because if Mehdi Hassan is able to go and to challenge people that like John Bolton and Mike Pompeo for their involvement in these conflicts and into the killings of innocent people through the Iraq War, then we've actually turned a corner on media, them actually being able to do so. Now, if he's not and he loses the show, we'll know that legacy media still will not hold people accountable for these wars. And so it is a kind of an important moment. Whether or not, whatever happens, it's still pretty great to see Mehdi Hassan. If he's going to run this kind of show, then and challenging people, and I hope he challenges Democrats as well, then I think it's going to be a pretty damn good show, and I'm going to keep my eye on it, and we'll see what happens. Shell, that's Mehdi Hassan writing for The Intercept, and so he does do a pretty good job, and I believe he is American, but I could be mistaken. All right. I love that. I love that segment. Lots of fun. It's really good to see people like that get challenged. All right, anyway. That's all I got here. Thank you for going on the nation with me today. Thank you, P. Pena. Appreciate that. S. Bloom says, couldn't think of Donahue for some reason. And Mean Beans asks, how is it Iran's fault? Oh, because he hates Iran. Ed Schultz, yeah, they went after Ed Schultz for a different reason, for covering Bernie Sanders. So there's that. He is British, yes, but whether or not he lives in America, that was my question, actually. All right. So just wanted to clarify that. All right, everybody. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Please tune in tomorrow. Same time, same place. Like and share the stream if you haven't already. And we will see you all tomorrow. You have a great day. And you stay safe.
Burmisia, they say, pronounce it Burmisia, a real beautiful company.
Why? You're getting nervous, man. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
I like my meat tight. Tighten up my meat.
Please clap.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.